Well, good morning, everyone, and
Good morning, Bruce.
welcome to another edition of the Pastords, Roger.
Good morning, all.
That's possibly the nicest shirt that I've ever seen you wear in my entire life.
I wore it for you.
I mean, I'm wearing a golf shirt. Roger's wearing a golf shirt. We're both in vacation mode. Like, how many weeks are we at?
We leave 2 weeks from Friday.
Wow, that's so exciting. Just love that.
Yes, but you look very dapper in that. What color would that be?
This is sort of a really dark green brown mix. So it's very outdoorsy. It's not near as beachy as your powder blue.
Yeah, this is pastel-ish, just a very...
And it's very silky.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, it's stretchy too. I love stretchy shirts.
Hey, here's something I'll bet you don't know.
The Patriots released another quarterback and still have 4?
Bingo! Oh, you're on me. No, you have every day is some now National Day or World Day. Do you know what today?
No, I know yesterday was National Teachers Day. So I'm assuming today must be National Pastords Day.
Well, I don't know if this has to do with the students, but today is World Donkey Day. I am not making this up.
That is very sad. You know why? Because we have not seen Molly in 3 weeks. And we're wondering if she's still alive.
Oh.
Like, I went down again late last night.
This is the donkey on their farm.
The donkey on the farm, Molly girl. She's old. She might be like 20 years old. So we're used to seeing her, but we put out apples like 2 nights ago, and she has not eaten them.
Oh.
That's a bad sign. I mean, who turns down a apple? So National World Donkey Day. So we celebrate Molly today or commemorate Molly today. We're not sure. I don't know if it's a celebration of life that we're dealing with today or an ongoing.
You have just ruined National Donkey Day.
Well, it's made Marlena very sad. She's a little wanting to see the donkey. But I'm like,
yes.
Well, depending on the decomposition of said donkey, I don't know if you do or don't.
No, you may be able to detect the donkey at some point.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there'll be aromas, flies, and we will have to put the loader on the tractor to use. I guess you would just bury a donkey somewhere on the back 40. Literally.
Yes. So how we end up, it's just tragic. We ended up, for all you donkey lovers out there, I apologize that we turned this into who decides these days? I mean, like, do you have to get a permit? I mean, like, do you have to file something? Who gets to?
I'll tell you what. I'll try tomorrow. I'm just going to throw something out on Facebook. I'm going to make it a National Something Day.
It'll work.
Just see if it takes off. And I'll say, name your favorite, whatever that is. So I could do National Pastor Day. Everybody comment. Tell me who your favorite pastor is.
Yes. So yeah, what would be fun national days? But now it's just like everything. I mean, like, what animal are we leaving out? Like National Armadillo Day?
I'm sure that one exists.
Are we National Yak Day?
Yak may be 50-50. I'm sure they celebrate that in the Andes or somewhere in the Alps.
Well, anywhere where they're dependent on a yak for their survival, I would think that...
Are yaks actually real?
They are not unicorns.
Okay.
When Bruce puts yaks in the same category as a dragon.
Sasquatch. Yak.
The Loch Ness
Monster.
National Loch Ness Monster Day.
I'm going to do something tomorrow. That's going to be.
You do it. You do it. I want to see it take off.
It might be World Dead Donkey Day. I don't know.
Oh, well, that's another deceased donkey.
Right. So anyone that has a dead donkey, just chime in and we'll commemorate that for you.
Yeah, there should be a flood of comments there.
As there always is when we make a post, Raj. There's a flood of comments. Hey, today, big day. Holly and Trina are coming down. They want to see the farm.
What?
Yeah, and then we're going to the Greta Van Fleet concert tonight in severe weather at an outdoor amphitheater. And I did read on their website, it's rain or shine, and no umbrellas are allowed.
This is also National Tornado Day.
Yes.
I think if you're
that's probably April 11th in Alabama, but
right.
we're still in that same zone. So I will be carrying a full rain suit to said concert. I mean, I'm not a big concert guy anyway, so I finally pick one. It's outdoors, and it looks like, well, it's only an 80% chance. So I mean, we might get the 20% of no rain,
Right.
which would be great.
Not just rain; it's like windy rain, some kind of stormy rain.
It's just shy of a hurricane, Raj. So I sent a note to Holly last night saying, hey, I hope you have a rain suit or a poncho because there are no umbrellas allowed. She goes, good to know. We'll buy ponchos. So they will be
That sounds like
poncho laden tomorrow. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I haven't been to a concert in, I don't know. I don't know how many years. I think maybe Amy Grant was my last concert.
Okay.
Mac Powell.
Amy's still touring. Well, of course, everybody's still touring.
Yeah.
I mean,
What was the Point of Grace? The four girls that did their thing.
oh, you went to the okay.
Well, it was a Point of Grace like third day concert. So
Okay.
they were the opening act, and then we had third day behind it.
I've been to so few concerts. It's
Well, it's so interesting that you and I are music lovers, but we're not big live music lovers.
Right. That's a good point.
I mean, love music, but I'm just not big concerts, particularly with my potential anxiety. I mean, I can't even go to Costco without having a panic attack. I have to take a Klonopin before I even get in that queue. Like, just trying to get gas, and then, but I have to go. I have to go there to get my medicine.
Right.
So it's like
to get said Klonopin.
it's a double whammy. It's like I've got to get to Costco, and I sort of have to set my mind. I'm not in a hurry. Merge, everybody merge, just merge. And it's really more when I get inside, because I realize I handle traffic inside a store the same way I handle traffic outside a store. I'm looking for the fastest route to something. And inevitably, someone in their 70s turns their buggy into me, and I'm like, oh, no worries, it's mine.
You're saying there are left lane drivers
There are
in Costco. It's true.
Well, and they'll fake you.
It's true.
They'll fake you. They'll be in the left lane, so you're going to pass on the right, but then they'll make a sudden turn because they'll see something there that they...
Or they'll drift.
Oh, that's the worst. They're drifting. Now you're behind them. You're going on both sides.
Pick a lane.
You can't do it. My favorite is when you get a family of 3 or 4 and they march 4 across. Just from the entrance on. Now, first, this always cracks me up. It's just great.
And they're oblivious, of course.
People get to the door at Costco, and we know that you have to have a Costco card to get in, but it's like they get to the door and they forget how the world works. And it's like, oh, our card. And so they're fumbling. Now, there's still 4 across. Now there's a line of people that have their cards in their hand that can't go in because the family of 4 is searching for the card. And
I know it's in here somewhere, Midge.
And the parents aren't like, hey, let's get off to the side and find our card so we can let the 237 people that are now waiting in. But I think that's where we learn patience, Raj.
That's what happens to you? You learn patience?
I do, because I want to lose my mind, and I don't.
No.
Which is what patience is.
I've pushed a kid over before.
See, because I think we sometimes think patience is a feeling that we have. Patience is a choice that we make.
It is. It's work.
Right. It's not like I suddenly have a peaceful, easy feeling.
Everybody merge.
Well, I sometimes have that going on. It actually...
Only because a great comedian did that. And
and now we've taken on...
Right.
Shout out to Brian Regan with his...
Yes.
If you haven't seen it yet, go to his hospital emergency room. It's just a great little spiel right there.
No, but that is a great word, because where we think character is now something that just emerges now naturally and wonderfully without... No, character is actually it's a long series of making choices. It's just...
Character is forged, Raj. It's forged. Well, no, I mean, and maybe this is something worth talking about. I think even when we think about loving our enemies or loving people that are difficult, we're sometimes tying that to a feeling. I should have a certain kind of feeling toward that person, or I'm not loving them. And I realize, no. Jesus never told me to like my enemies, like have this fond affection for them. He said, agape, which you love them as an unconditional act of your will. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And then there were certain behaviors attached to that, but it wasn't a feeling. So
Right.
when I think about all the fruits of the Spirit, that's interesting. All the fruits, love, joy, peace, they're choices that we make in the moment that we don't necessarily feel. Now, I think the feeling can come. Like, I realize one of the best feelings that a human being can feel is contentment. And like, I'm content with life and space and
And
where
how many songwriters are putting out there? That's still the thing I can't find.
Right. I can't find satisfaction. I can't find peace.
Right.
Can't find peace. I'm just looking for peace of mind. That was the whole Boston song, Peace
Yeah,
of Mind.
yeah.
Guys just keep doing what you're doing, but climb the company ladder. But I'm just looking for peace of mind.
Right.
And I'm like,
still haven't found what I'm looking for. Yeah. Just, well, the other thing that I think is so important, what you're saying here, that I've encountered for me, but it is, and talking to so many people, it's the idea that I should just, something's wrong if I don't just almost naturally feel forgiving.
right.
The Spirit of God isn't at work at me. So the fact that I don't want to forgive this person, we can look and say, oh, how messed up am I? That
Right.
And it's this idea, it betrays the idea that we think that as God transforms us now I just want to be generous all the time. Now I just want to forgive, now I just want to be humble. I want to not take revenge. So actually, I've been people that are almost kind of beating themselves up. Like, I still feel angry at this person, or I don't really want to forgive. What's wrong with me?
Well, and I think there is there's the feeling of anger, and then there's choosing to be angry. Because Jesus even talked about it. If you're angry with your brother, I'm trying to remember how he finished that one. It wasn't good. I'll put it that way. But the idea was, I'm continuing in anger, resentment. I'm holding on to something, and I'm not letting it go. Because the emotion that we feel of anger, that's just normal. We feel that all the time at different points. And it doesn't mean that God isn't sanctifying us. What matters is what we think and do. Because I realize so much is what's going on in my mind. But what we think and do and say matters in that moment when we're angry.
In the struggle. Because this is the idea. I think it's the idea that if we're Christians, certainly mature Christians, we shouldn't struggle with doing good. It's just the opposite. I think a mature Christian has learned
that the struggle is real and continual.
No, the analogy that came to my mind, however imperfect it is if someone's thrashing in the water, they're trying not to drown. That's a good sign.
Right.
In other words, you're struggling.
When they're laying face down and floating, problem.
Right. In other words, to see that struggling is a sign of health. And I've always loved, I'm sure we've talked about it before, if not on air, certainly off the air, but Israel means one who wrestles or struggles.
Yeah.
This new name God gave, was it Jacob?
Jacob, yep.
I love the image of Christians as strugglers. So I wanted to, even again, to bless people, the fact that you're struggling with not letting your anger get toxic, the fact that you're struggling to forgive, the fact that you're struggling to be patient, which is an everyday battle. Every day I'm struggling. But I've stopped seeing that as a negative. I've stopped seeing, when am I going to get to a point where I just love patience, where I just can't wait to forgive?
Well, you just exude patience. Not sure you're ever going to exude.
Nope. Ain't no exuding.
But you can choose patience.
But and it's not bad that it's work. That's where, in fact, it's where I'm choosing to bring the Holy Spirit into this moment, because that's what I often have to do. Oh, God, help me here. I am, even still yesterday wrestling once again through, an eBay snafu and the post office screwing something up royally. But the healthy Rogers, he's still struggling. He's still working, and he's still fighting, and still talking to God. Help me be gracious.
Yep.
Help me. I don't want this to poison my spirit. I don't want this to affect the way I talk to Joy tonight. I don't want this thing to control me that's all healthy. This is all a sign that Roger, the struggling is actually a sign that Roger is growing.
So think about it. The problem then is when we give up on the struggle.
Yes.
And we just surrender to the sin. In other words, it's how a person can become bitter over time. They cease to struggle with forgiveness. And so they just choose a different path, which is resentment and bitterness, and which is a terrible way to live. I mean, and I was talking to a client about this yesterday, just the reality that Jesus struggled. I mean, that was that term. He was tempted in every way like we were, yet without sin. So there's certainly no sin in the temptation. The feeling,
right,
and the wanting to do the wrong thing,
right,
and not wanting to do the right thing, that is the temptation. That is the struggle. But the fact that we're struggling is good.
Yeah.
It's when I give up on the struggle and say, I'm just going to be mean to Marlene tonight. I just don't care. I don't know. I'm going to try to be nice.
And what I saw an earlier Roger, because I had a vision that character, that the way of Jesus transforms the feelings, and transforms. Well, here's what happened. I could never get there, and so then I did give up. I remember points where I can't get that.
I can't get there.
Where I literally, because I thought where God wanted me to get was
beyond the struggle,
where I feel like doing the right thing every time. I remember the moments where, so why bother? In other words, I've tried everything to get there, and I was trying to get to the wrong place. But the tragedy is my misconception led me to do something dumb. Why bother anymore? Why struggles? Why fight? These other people that I see, they just seem to do it so effortlessly. They just seem to be so loving and mercy giving. Of course, I can't tell at all how deeply they're struggling to do this thing that I'm saying. So I think it's such an important word.
And I think there's other things based on temperament, giftedness, and even God's sanctifying work in our life, that certain things are no longer a struggle. They're easy to do. They're just easier to do. And it's not like we're hyper spiritual that makes that. It is the Holy Spirit's work in me. I realize there are some things now that are much, for instance, for me, it is much easier to forgive now than it was, say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. In other words, early on in my following Jesus, many of the commands that he gave about loving others well, because all of his commands fall under that command of love others the way I've loved you. Some of those were extremely hard. Accept others as Christ has accepted you. And I'm like, but that person, they're really a mess, and they struggle with this sin, and they're, and I'm
I
like,
just don't like them.
And I'm like, but that's me. I've got my own issues. Man, do I want to be accepted? Do I want to be loved? Do I want to be cared for? Absolutely. So it's some of those things are easier as we grow, but other things I'm decided, well, that's going to be a struggle the rest of my life.
And I've also seen where I've had a good run with something, and then I start struggling again. It's almost like a golf game. There's something that I'm doing really well with it. Those moments, they're small for me, where I'm feeling comfortable over the ball, and it just feels like, they don't last long for me at all. Haven't had one in quite some time.
Fleeting.
But I have had stretches where I'm actually hitting an iron. Well, not irons. I'm actually hitting a 3-wood pretty well. And then it goes away. So I think even we can have a stretch where it's feeling more natural, it's coming more, but then we get in the weeds. And something throws us. And I guess it's just a reminder not to stereotype what the journey's supposed to look like, not to make too many assumptions around, or I've hit a plateau. I'm not going to go backwards. I'm arrived at this point. We part of growth is we go backwards sometimes.
Well, and then to give every person grace to go backwards every now and then.
Good. Yes.
Like our spouse, I was thinking like this week, I had a great weekend, took a group out to the Appalachian Trail. we got a little bit of rain. There were certain stressful things that were happening, but the high stress thing was the last day. We've got hot tub treatments at 2 p.m. So we've got to make a particular time. And we got to the cars in time, but then my phone decided to lose because I had pre-done how to get out from Max Patch. Cause it's a bunch of Forest Service roads. It's hard to get from Max Patch to Hot Springs because there's so many turnoffs, and it's all dirt roads, gravel roads. So you get, and all of a sudden my phone just isn't doing anything. So I'm like stopped in the dirt road for like 10 minutes trying to get it to come up, and then my phone dies. Totally had forgot to plug it in because we've been on the trail. No. Phone dies, and
I'm feeling the stress in that moment.
2 of my people behind me, and that's all I'm thinking is I'm looking at my screen trying to get it, and then they're like, "Hey, what do we need to do?" There's a line of people behind us, and I look in my mirror, and there's like 4 other people lined up behind us, and I'm like, "Well, just get out of the way." But I said it real ill, like, "Get out of the way." I mean,
right?
I'm trying to find
because you were pissed off about
This wasn't. I can't make
technology wasn't working,
and you and I both get really frustrated with technology.
Technology
doesn't work. Anyway, but then I apologized later. I'm like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I was irritable about that. I was feeling a lot of." But they're like, "Oh, we didn't even notice." I mean, they gave me lots of grace. They didn't even see it as. I knew I was feeling irritated. Mm-hmm. It didn't come across to them as irritated as I was feeling.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, you didn't pick up the edge in my voice that I intended to communicate.
Well, no, they did get over and just got out of the way. But I realized, but even the fact that it was important to me to go back and apologize for that is that sanctifying work. And I was so glad that they were gracious to me. They're like, "Hey, no big deal. We're just." And I think that's part of the maturing process. When we do blow it, like we're struggling, and then we mess up, we blow it, to own it and to apologize for that. But particularly if we're hurting someone else.
Yep.
And again, part of my constant struggle is with irritability or anger under stress. Mm-hmm. And anytime that I'm leading a hike, there's a certain amount of stress that I'm experiencing as I'm watching the whole group pace and all that kind of stuff.
And you're feeling the responsibility for the whole.
Well, and now we're going to get there 30 minutes late. So we're only going to get a 30-minute hot tub treatment instead of an hour. Then I feel bad because I'm like, they're not getting what they paid for.
I think.
And it was so frustrating because I pulled it up when I had signal on top of Max Patch. I'm like, okay, we're ready. It's logged in. Then I got down there and it's like, no, try again. We're out.
Well, and if you're like me at all, and we tend to be, is also the perception of, I was prepared. Now people think I wasn't prepared.
That was it. No, that was the major.
I'm a guide.
Why doesn't Bruce know how to get off this mountain?
Right.
Hasn't he been here 100 times?
Right. And the whole thing, you actually had prepared, you had done everything. And so now you look kind of foolish, or you look
incompetent.
Yeah. Right. and we know how we sometimes react to other people when they're incompetent. We know what we think about incompetent people.
And that's what I talk to God about a lot when I've judged other people about incompetence in any, and I'm just, it's so interesting. I'm much more aware of what I'm thinking. And it goes even back to what you had talked about months ago. May the thoughts, meditations of my heart, the thoughts and meditation of my heart be acceptable to God. I'm much more aware of what I'm thinking. And when I don't think rightly about another person, I'm just very quick to go, hey, maybe that's part of taking thoughts captive. I'm isolating and going, that's not the right thing to think. That was judgmental, or that was superiority thinking. Like it with driving. I'm the superior driver. I'm a very good driver. No, I'm not. I'm a driver,
Yeah.
So I'm getting better, but the struggle is real.
But it hit me then that back to this thing we were talking about, and now another wrinkle to the part about not struggling. I realize the Spirit of God brings new things to my mind to struggle about. It's maturity is not a lack of struggling. Right. It's maturity is actually learning the things I should be struggling about. Because here's
that you weren't before.
That I wasn't before. In other words, where I wasn't apologizing before, I didn't even think that was a thing. Where I had superior attitudes toward the poor or people of a different race, or I wasn't struggling at all. Or places where I wasn't generous. I wasn't struggling because that wasn't even on my radar that was. So maturity is actually learning new places that I need to struggle. It's actually finding new struggle. The Spirit.
That is both freeing and horrifying. No, it's the reality that we never arrive.
We never, right.
If God is intent on forming Christ in us, to we are literally Christ-like. Jesus would say, be perfect as your Heavenly Father is perfect, after he would say something crazy about your Heavenly Father brings rain to the righteous and the unrighteous and causes the sunshine on the evil and the good. Now, I want you to be I want you to treat the evil and the unrighteous the way your Heavenly Father does. And it's like, I didn't even know to struggle with that.
Right. No, the idea, I've never struggled with loving my enemies. I didn't need to.
Right.
But now Jesus has now
introduced a struggle.
And wasn't he doing that with his disciples all the time?
Constantly.
They're arguing about who's the greatest. They're not even realize that's a bad thing. We would like seats on either side of you in your kingdom. They don't even. And Jesus, wait.
And Jesus dealt with anger in those moments. Like even his famous saying, "Are you still so dull? Will you be able to understand anything?" Now that was a very tempered response. The temptation was to say something far more direct, like, "You moron," right. Which Jesus did not do. Which it was so funny. I had 2 clients that were actually a part of The Chosen. So I'm going to be looking for them in season 5, episode 3.
Oh, really? Okay.
But this is the moment where Jesus clears the temple, and he is angry.
Okay.
I mean, he is angry. He's seeing
and
the
they
injustice.
Were extras.
They were extras.
Okay.
But they were on like this roof of the colonnade looking down and watching this thing. But they said the funniest thing happened. The guy who plays Jesus, who does a fabulous job of it, he's trying to work up anger. So even that they do these scenes, they did the same scene 3 different days. And they do it from different camera angles, and then they choose the one that they like. The way that movies are done wasn't like we did them in 8th grade. You got one take, it's good, we're going with it.
So this guy's an extra 3 different days for the same scene?
For the 3 days for the same scene.
Gosh.
But Jesus is angry, and he said the guy who goes, "You brood of vipers, I don't remember the line. What's the line?" Because he was trying to stay in the anger moment, but he totally forgot his line. Of course, everyone's just laughing. I'm like, I would have loved to see some of that behind the scenes stuff with The Chosen, because he's being angry and
would it be appropriate to have a blooper reel for The Chosen?
It would be. Can you imagine all the Jesus bloopers? You'd be like, yeah, that was not Jesus. Jesus never missed a line. He was perfect on that front. But when you're angry, it is that it is back to the feeling thing. In your anger, do not sin.
Right.
And don't hold a grudge. Because this is the other thing. I'm going to just clear up a misnomer real quick. It says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. So I've got all of these couples that are like, we should never go to bed angry. And I'm like, okay, that's not true. Because sometimes you need to go to bed angry so you don't talk about it that night. Mm-hmm. You need to not talk about it while you're angry. You need to rest, cool off. The whole idea of don't let the sun go down on your wrath is just don't hold a grudge. I mean, it's a basic principle. You can't go to bed angry ever.
Right. It's you don't leave this unaddressed.
Right. So we're going to address it, but we're going to address it when we're in a better space emotionally. Because if I address it right then when I'm angry, it's going to go bad.
No. I will do more destructive.
Worst possible time.
It's not getting tied into this is about a 24-hour period, or this is somehow it is a word about, you can't leave that unaddressed. You need to, because unaddressed anger will be a grenade at some point.
Right. And I was thinking about this on the way in, and it's something that in The Chosen, they bring out Jesus like, I didn't come here to bring a whole new set of rules. I mean, it was never about rules, but I realized we gravitate to rules. Mm-hmm. We want to, you can't go to, the rule is you can't go to bed angry. So instead, a couple will try to resolve that thing while they're both angry, and it escalates into a tornado of conflict.
And they go to bed angrier.
And they go to bed ready to kill each other. Right. Often in separate bedrooms.
Most likely kill you in the morning.
Right. But where it's so much better to say, hey, we don't need to talk about this right now. It's important. We do need to talk about it. It's not going to be unaddressed. But this is not the time. And Marlene and I have learned, if we're talking about something that creates conflict for us, it's better to talk about it in the morning. Because we've been rested.
Yep.
Unless we had insomnia, then the morning could also be bad.
And I think that even goes along with the word, let everyone be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Sometimes shut up because you're angry. In other words, so that can all be tied together. There's going to be a time to talk about this, but now's not the time because I'm too angry.
Swift. That was the King James, wasn't it?
That was, yes.
Yeah. Be swift to hear. I like quick to hear. But I live more in 2024 than Roger does. Roger lives in 1611, apparently. Swift to hear.
I read the Bible Jesus wrote.
Jesus wrote into Jerusalem on a Bible.
And it was the 1611 on National Donkey Day.
Don't even get me started on whole King James only thoughts. We're in right there.